Hello, friends. It's I, Sergeant Hosterger of the Type Police, and welcome to an episode in which we investigate an individual who claims to be an INTJ. Is he right, or is he mistyped? Find out next on the Type Police. Try as you might, you just can't hide, 'cause you're mistyped. And I've been waiting to pull you over all night. Type police, type police. Please pull that guy over. He says he's INTP, but seems extroverted, sensing to me. I think he's ESFP or type police. Welcome back to Type Police.
Watching.
My childhood memories start from a very early age. Maybe this is normal for everybody, but I definitely remember being about 2 and even getting my diaper changed and thinking, I really got to stop doing that in my pants. But I do also remember having a vivid and deep and extensive fantasy life from very young. I remember, being 3 years old and staring out the window at either cars or we lived in a neighborhood that was being developed, and there were some dirt hills across the street where they'd piled backfill and stuff like that from where they'd excavated from houses. And so motorcycles and cyclists, BMX bikers, I guess, if that was becoming popular then.
Okay, so right off the bat, he's telling a story of a vivid fantasy life that he had as a kid, and he begins it by saying he remembers staring across the street at these dirt mounds, and then presumably he tangents down away from that into how it was like in the neighborhood and the era and stuff. Okay, so there's a lot of SI here right off the bat, and some SE as well, that he's describing physicalities in some sense.
And we'd go out there and mess around, and I'd just stare outside and think about doing that myself. And I remember being inside, not even looking out the window, and daydreaming about doing stuff like that and riding motorcycles. If I could give you what I would think, since I have limited time, I want to give you a couple of characters that I think of when I think of my childhood. It would be Ralphie from A Christmas Story, and it's going to seem like it has a Christmas theme here, but Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone. For some reason his name is escaping me in that. Anyway, I remember just like Ralphie, thinking about getting this toy and just daydreaming hours on end. And like in the Home Alone, this is going to drive me crazy. Kevin, duh. Kevin coming up with all these little inventions and ways to hurt these people, and him being totally fine being in the house by himself and content and thinking everything through, organizing his life while his family's gone. He had a little bit of a
Okay, so this is kind of like a wide-ranging any style. Oh, you are here. I heard you breathing. I didn't hear you come in.
You can hear me breathing?
Yeah.
Are you sure it's not the chicken?
No, I heard you breathe right now. You probably just took a deeper breath than usual. I heard you breathe, and I was like, is Kim here? But I didn't remember you coming in. Anyway, This is very SE style ramblings, it would seem to me. I feel the TE in here, in the sense that he's identifying with Macaulay Culkin and stuff like that. But I had a vivid fantasy life when I was a child, and it was full of worlds that were in my head and spaceships, and it wasn't about riding BMX bikes and stuff, right? That's not intuitive stuff. That's sensing stuff. In general, most of what we hear him talking about is sensor stuff, except the identification with Macaulay Culkin as a child who's home alone and able to take care of himself and be able to make all these inventions and stuff. That seems like a fairly normal thing for kids of that time period who were kids to go home and imagine about. But it doesn't. None of it feels particularly intuitive to me in terms of its content, right? So there's a question always in typing somebody. Well, what are you going to pay attention to? You're going to pay attention to the content, or you're going to pay attention to the displays, the motivational matrix? Like, what do they appear to be motivated by here? Like, that's one question you could ask, right? Well, what do they appear to be motivated by to make this video? I would say it's some sort of FISI thing. It would seem to me to be. But let's let him continue and find out more.
Bakic, no, not Bakic. He let himself go for the first day or so, and then he realized that wasn't necessarily the best use of his time, and he so quickly organized his day and started shopping for himself, and he just wanted to prove he could be the best independent child he could be. And I remember thinking so much like that. I remember a lot of swinging. So I was so much more of a fantasizer than I was a doer in kindergarten and even in elementary school. Even, I think, into middle school a little bit. When we all went out to recess, until we stopped having recess, most of the time I would spend it on the swings. And I remember just daydreaming, swinging for the entire recess and singing songs like, it was mostly Barry Manilow songs, maybe a couple of Bee Gees songs or something. And just daydreaming about all these things that I wanted to do, like, the Red Ryder BB gun thing, but I didn't want a BB gun back then. I remember thinking...
Daydreaming about stuff you'd like to do is not an intuitive quality, I wouldn't say. I daydreamed like stories with me, a character in the story, and having magic powers and stuff. That's the kind of daydreams I had, and they were very removed from reality.
Well, he's not claiming to be an ENTP.
I know he's not, but he's claiming to be an intuitive. And what I'm saying is his daydreaming is not about big ideas. Like, why do you... Like, an INTJ might daydream about why ants do things like this.
Right. Oh, so
he's daydreaming about stuff he might do.
About.
He'd like to get a BB gun. He'd like to ride motorbikes. That doesn't seem intuitive at all to me. INTJs are going to have a different kind of intuitive daydreaming than ENTPs are. ENTPs, being NE DOMs, are going to be... there's going to be a lot of swords and dragons-y stuff. NI DOMs, who are TE, though, are going to be a lot of understanding the world stuff. And that daydreaming isn't understanding the world stuff. It's, stuff I'd like to do.
So you don't think he's an intuitive?
I don't think he's an intuitive, and I don't think he's an INTJ. He doesn't sound like an INTJ. He doesn't have the same cadence, verbal cadences, or vocal cadences as an INTJ. and that I'm familiar with than normal people that I have typed as INTJ before. So far, I'm not seeing a lot of INTJ. I'm seeing something more like maybe ISTJ.
Thinking about girls a lot since I was very young. I think there wasn't a from preschool to high school. I don't think there was a single class or grade at least or year where I didn't have a crush on some girl, even in preschool. I remember in kindergarten having this crush on this little blonde girl, and I don't even remember what she looked like in her face, but she had these leather boots. They were really popular back then. Really soft zip-up leather boots. They were like a wine color, burgundy color, with the gummy bottoms.
Okay, all of this screams SI-DOM, right? SI-DOM with ignoring SE. So he remembers clearly from his SE what these boots look like when he's like in kindergarten. Now, granted, the topic of this video is about childhood, so presumably it's looking back. But the fact that he would choose this as the topic suggests, well, I mean, and he's so comfortable with the topic, right? Just his SI is so evident there. That doesn't seem like 8-slot SI at all. All right, well, let's look at this. Let's watch this one. Let's change videos and see if he behaves differently.
Today we're going to be talking a little bit about INTJs and their relationships. Some people are going to find this a little disconcerting, a little cold, but it is what it is. I'm just going to tell you how most of us seem to function. Not all of us, most of us seem to function. We have a very systematic way that we go about pretty much everything, including relationships. We're looking for perfection. We know it's not out there. Some of us won't settle for anything except for perfection, and those of us end up alone. The more mature ones know that there's nothing perfect on earth, including ourselves, and we're willing to make some compromises. Now, before you think, they're all high and mighty and they want someone who's perfect and they're self-righteous, etc., etc., they aren't just looking out for their own interest most of the time. They wouldn't want to put someone else through a relationship where either one was dissatisfied. So in them not settling for less than what they want or what they think would work, they're actually preventing some heartache on other people's parts. For what that's worth. Some people are still going to think that's crazy and ridiculous and mean and cold-hearted, but I digress. So, an INTJ knows it's important for things to work well, to have common interests, probably like similar foods, similar places. If they're religious, similar religion, similar ideals, they don't want to argue all the time. And they don't want to be put in situations that make them really uncomfortable. So if they marry someone whose parents live in Australia and they live in China, and this INTJ does not like travel, they're probably not going to want to be in that relationship.
He just keeps mentioning a bunch of SI stuff. I don't know. His example of how come a relationship might not be comfortable or something is that he'd have to travel and he doesn't like to travel. Well, that's a SI thing. I don't like to travel either for SI reasons. I haven't really heard a whole lot of ideation here, I guess. Like he's saying, well, they seek to find a perfect mate, and so they're slow to commit to anything. That's an idea, a concept that he's expressing here. Let's see what else he goes on to do. He's an interesting fellow.
because there will be a lot of stretching of their envelope, so to speak. And they like routine and predictability to an extent. They look for perfect compatibility or almost perfect compatibility.
Routine and predictability are ISTJ things. They seek routine and predictability.
And if they can't find that, this is where it's going to get even more. I don't want to say creepy, but a lot of people aren't going to like this either. Anyways, if they can't find perfection, they're looking for pliability. And there are people out there that say, oh, you should love them for who they are, and everybody should be able to be themselves, and blah, 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 blah. Well, some people are okay being pliable. And INTJs like pliability. If they think that they can turn you into their perfect mate, that's what they're going to try to do.
Okay, well that sounds like an INTJ. That does sound like an INTJ. The thing is, it sounds to me like he's really describing himself in an SI sort of way, while using NI style language, talking about it as though we're generally true, which is something I do sometimes, you know. INTJ, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to arrest him, but I have some serious doubts here. I feel really conflicted here. I'm gonna let him go some longer. You can see the FI all over him, right? It's like this is not an FE person. He seems like he's got more effective FE than 7th slot, but he's clearly an FI person. You need to smell the moisture.
Now, they don't want you to know this, and I'll just tell you from personal experience that when you use this technique, like I in my own life, actually, I found someone I thought was as perfect as I could find. She fit pretty much everything that was important to me. Ideals, where she lived, thoughts on travel, etc. Very intelligent. INTJs like intelligent partners, and so we went about the almost normal way of things. And later on, I actually wrote a novel about our relationship. Sort of, she thinks it's autobiographical, but it's really, it's fiction. So if you read my novel, One Flesh Divided, it's fiction. But there's a lot of truth that has come from our relationship. And it was devastating to her to read that I actually looked for, it was almost like I grilled her with questions. Do you like this? Oh, you fit. And then there were some things that didn't work so well. And I thought, I could probably change that. And when she read the novel and thought, oh, we didn't just have this magical romantic love like you see in the movies, it was devastating to her. And I totally get that. I'm not making light of that or making that little at all. In fact, it to this day has caused a little bit of stiffness in our relationship, but we're working on it and it's getting better. She understands that that's just the way I function, and she also understands that I have grown. And INTJs, if they're mature, they will grow and begin to learn that love is putting the other's needs before your own, and it's a choice. And which some people are going to say, oh, it's now you're saying it's a choice and you don't fall into it. Yes, okay.
I don't know what to make of this guy. He says he's an INTJ, but I think I'm gonna have to let him go, because I can't pinpoint why he couldn't exactly be an INTJ. the things he's talking about here, this novel where he's trying to change this person and make them into the person he wants them to be, that's very INTJ-ish. It could be an INFP, maybe, but I'm gonna have to let him go, I guess, just 'cause I don't really have any clear enough reason to arrest him. But I'm a little suspicious of you, fellow Dave Voskos. So just, keep your head low, lest you get pulled over again by the type police. Try as you might, you just can't hide, 'cause you're mistyped. And I've been waiting to pull you over all night. Type police, type police.